What is up, college lacrosse fans? The NCAA tournament seedings for Division I are finally upon us. We have a couple of teams that got left out. We have a bunch of teams that got in. Everything pretty much went as I personally expected it to, and as most of the experts expected it to. But before we get into all of that, we're getting to the end of the season here, so it's time to what do you call it? Piss or get off the pot. If you want to support us, cool. You can go to LaxFactor.com, buy yourself a t-shirt. We have, our actual brand t-shirts as well as a bunch of other cool designs. We also have, let's get that out of here. We also have the Rampage Lacrosse shorts. We still have these left in some of the bigger sizes, XLs, and I think we have a pair of double XLs. So you can get yourself a pair of those as well. As always, you can comment down below and make the comment thoughtful about the upcoming tournament. This is the last day to enter into the contest to win this reversible, and then we're going to put up different reversibles to pretty much contest off through the season. So comment down below, and you can win this Channel 4 jersey. It's got Rod Burgundy's name and number on the back of it, and that's from tribelacrosse.com. And I digress. Let's get into this. The LaxFactor Podcast. All right, let's start with the teams that got left out first. The teams that got left out are Cornell. And Cornell, what hurt them in the end was their strength of schedule. Their worst loss was only to Syracuse, so it's not a bad loss, but the problem is just the strength of schedule, and they only ended up with 2 quality wins. That hurts them. Denver, same problem. Strength of schedule gets them in the Big East, and High Point, strength of schedule mixed with a lot of bad losses. Anyone who's crying about High Point had some bad losses, even with their good wins, and that's what booted them, on top of the fact that those bad losses were to weak teams because they play a weaker schedule. So I'm not one to cry over spilled milk, so we're done with this. Cornell was the only one I think that had a legitimate gripe getting left out of the tournament field. But with that said, I don't think they got this wrong. I think Cornell, they were probably right to leave Cornell out in the end, even though I'm upstate New Yorker and now I'm going to get crucified for that. We dive into the teams that won and handled their business during the regular season and got their asses in. We've got Penn State. Penn State's the 1 seed overall, probably one of the most deserving 1 seeds we've had in a long time. So Penn State's the 1 seed, and they're going to get to face the play-in game winner between Marist and UMBC. So that game goes on, I think, the 8th. They play. So they play on Wednesday. Marist and UMBC do, and then they will take on Penn State. The winner of that game will take on Penn State Sunday at noon on ESPNU. So of all the teams that are playing, I think Penn State's the only team here that has what you would call a gimme. That's not to say that Marist and UMBC couldn't hang with them a little bit more than we expect, but I do not think there is any world in which Marist or UMBC upset Penn State. I think if Penn State played them 10 times, Penn State beats them 10 times, and I think that's just the way that it would go. We move, now we get into the second seed and down, and here's where I think we get our first team that got screwed. Duke at the number 2 seed, facing off against Richmond at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Now, I don't like this seed. I feel like Duke, if you're going to give Duke the number 2 over Virginia, which I thought was odd in the first place, you got to give them Robert Morris, I feel like Duke should have been playing Robert Morris. Richmond and Duke have already played, and they already played to a close game. I think Duke beat Richmond 11-7 at home. So Richmond's a tough squad, and I think for Duke to draw them as the number 2 seed is weird. It's almost as if they wanted to give Virginia the 2 seed, but felt like Robert Morris and Richmond deserved the 13 and 14 spots, and then they just swapped Duke and Virginia seed. For maybe, I don't know if it's regional. Who knows what the hell their logic was behind that one. That's one I don't get, Richmond and Duke. But either way, Duke is obviously the favorite, but Duke, Richmond already proving they can hang with Duke, and Duke has not been consistent all year. That's our very first upset watch, because I feel like Duke could definitely lose a game to Richmond if Richmond can put it all together and get lucky on a Sunday at 5 p.m. The number 3 seed, and this is where I think Virginia got lucky, they're playing Robert Morris at home, 7:30 Saturday on ESPNU. They haven't faced each other yet, but Robert Morris started the season 1-6. They're winners of, 8 straight, I think now at this point, including winning their conference tournament. So they're hot, but Virginia's not cold by any means. I think Virginia's won 11 of their last 12, or maybe even 12 of their last 13 games. So Virginia's cruising themselves. Two of their losses came early in the season. So Virginia, I think Virginia's going to handle Robert Morris. I'd say of the top 3 seeds, it's going to go Penn State's the most likely to win. I think Virginia's the most likely to win after that, and then Duke. So that's partly why I think Duke got screwed. I think Duke should have drawn Robert Morris. If I was a coach, I feel like I, at this point, would rather play Robert Morris than Richmond. But who am I? I'm not on the committee. We get past that, and here's another team that I think kind of got screwed was number 4, Penn. They're going to have to play Army 5 p.m. Saturday on ESPNU. So who wants to play Army right now? Army, they beat Loyola in the Patriot League tournament. They win the Patriot League tournament. They've got 12 wins or something to that effect. Let's see here. Yeah, Army 13-4 record right now. So I feel like Penn, I won't say Penn got screwed. What I will say is Penn has the 4 seed. This is just the way this is going to go throughout the seedings here now, is this is one of the strongest tournament fields I can remember seeing. So Penn, 11-3, very susceptible to getting beat by a team like Army. Army is going to play solid defense. They've got a great goalkeeper in Barreto. Offensively, they can put it together. Defensively is the key, though. I think Army, they have a couple of good, close defenders that can kind of help corral the Penn attack. Penn's offense is excellent. Penn's offense is right there behind, I think, a Penn State, a Georgetown. So they can put goals up with the best of them. I think this is a bad draw for them in the sense that I think Army matches up very well against them. And I think that some of Penn's strengths are Army's strengths in terms of neutralizing that. So tough draw for Penn, but that's what's going to happen here through the rest of it. We dive into the number 5 team, and this is another really bad draw. And I think this is a really good draw for Georgetown. Number 5, Yale, is going to host a game on May 11th at 2:30 against Georgetown. Georgetown 13-4 coming out of the Big East. They beat Denver to pretty much get in because they weren't getting in with an at-large bid. So Georgetown beats Denver, 13 wins. Georgetown has a nasty offense. Their attackmen can light it up. Their team in general, they can light it up on the offensive side of the ball. And why I think this is an odd draw for Yale is Yale's typically going to win the battle at the faceoff X because of T.D. Erlin. If there's any team in this field that proved in the last game before they played that defensively they can shut people down and play some solid lacrosse, it's Georgetown. They have played excellent defense down the stretch. They played excellent defense through their conference tournament. They played excellent defense against Denver, a team that can put some points up, that is probably as capable offensively, almost as capable offensively as Yale, minus the ridiculous Twarton faceoff guy. Denver's a year's Twarton candidate faceoff guy. Denver's a year removed from losing Baptiste. So that's an interesting game that Georgetown could go into Denver, beat Denver, get to Yale, and then, man, I don't know. I still like Yale. Yale's 12-3. They're the team that beat Penn State here, but Georgetown is formidable. This is not by any chance an easy win for Yale at home in the tournament. We move on from there. I didn't like this seed. I don't know what the logic was behind it because I've played through all these scenarios and I did not have Towson rated this highly, but they give Towson the number 6 seed. They're going to play Maryland. So of all the seeded teams, that's a pretty tough draw right there. Towson and Maryland, we got an in-state rivalry going on this one. Both teams sit at 11-4. They did not play each other during the regular season, but they played similar teams. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think Maryland is the better team at this point, and I think I like Maryland's chances against Towson, but I will tell you, Maryland had a hard time guarding the very aggressive attack of Hopkins these last 2 games of the regular season, and Towson has some very formidable attackmen. Sunday can go to the rack. They've got Frommert, and Towson has some big physical attackers. They've got a couple of big physical midfielders. They can scrap on defense when they're playing well, and their goalkeeper is strong when he's playing well. So I think this is a tough draw for Maryland. I believe that on paper, you could, if Maryland wins, you call this an upset on paper. I wouldn't put it that way. I would say that in my mind, Maryland's the team that should be favored in this one, and that if they lose, that's an upset in Towson, even though the seeding doesn't go that way. But that's going to be a ridiculously great game to watch. So be sure to tune in. That one's on May 12th at 2:30. We go from there. Let's see here. They had them out of order here. Okay, so next up, number 7, Notre Dame. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, Notre Dame and Hopkins, they're the 2 teams that a lot of people thought wouldn't get in because Notre Dame, I believe, is sitting at 8-6, and Hopkins is sitting at 8-7. So they were the two teams that were kind of on the bubble that teams weren't sure about, but here they sit well-seeded teams and not, even the last two in. Notre Dame and I don't know. This is another toss-up here because they both beat Maryland, so both have proved they can play that style. I think that Notre Dame defensively matches up well against Hopkins, but I think this new aggressive Hopkins offense is going to be key, and defensively they've shored things up again. So once again, on paper, if Hopkins wins, it looks like an upset. I wouldn't really consider it that. I would almost consider Hopkins the hotter team and the favored team in this matchup, but once again, another ridiculously incredible game that we're going to get to watch here in the first round. That's May 12th. At 7:30 p.m. on the U. All these games are on the U, by the way. And then we get into the 8 seed, Syracuse, or the 8 seed Loyola playing Syracuse. So Syracuse does get in, obviously. I knew that they were going to. There was really what we saw here, as everyone was griping back and forth about who was in and out. Maryland fans were dumping on Syracuse and saying they weren't going to get in, and Syracuse fans were dumping on Maryland, saying they weren't going to get in. Both teams got in. Cornell was the one that got fucked. So it's a tough draw for both teams, but that's what happens when you're the 8 and the 9 seed. Syracuse matches up well against Loyola. Syracuse, in their only other game against a true Tewaaraton candidate, was against Cornell and Jeff Teat. They held Teat to 2 assists. Teat and Spencer are two completely different animals, though. Spencer is a bulldodger. Teat is a finesse guy who's just as willing to feed. Not that Spencer isn't. I think that Mellon's going to be the key here. I think Nick Mellon for Syracuse is going to match up well against Pat Spencer. I think that what's going to be the key matchups here are going to be the off-ball matchups against guys like Olmstead, and then the midfielder matchups. How are Syracuse's defensive midfielders going to play against Loyola's very deadly midfield unit? You got Duffy, who's nasty. I'm just drawing a blank here on Loyola's other midfielders, but I digress here. So anyway, you have Loyola, who's tough. You have Syracuse, who's tough. And either way, whoever wins that game, they've got to go face Penn State. So they've got the toughest road out of any team here. Is if they win, they still got to face Penn State in the quarterfinals, and that's going to be a rough one. I will say, though, I think both of these teams match up decently well against Penn State in terms of defense and all that crap. Now Syracuse's Achilles heel has traditionally been their off-ball D over the last 2 years, so that's going to hurt them against Penn State. Loyola's problem has just been D in general, so that's going to play into Syracuse's chances, and then both of their chances to move forward against Penn State. I digress, though. I start rambling here. So chances for upsets all across the board, but I call them upsets. You know what I mean? I don't think that if outside of the 2 seed and all the way down there, I think any of these teams that aren't Penn State are really, really susceptible to getting beat in the first round here, even though I think teams like Virginia, Duke probably won't lose. They could. Shit happens, and shit'll happen against teams like Richmond and even Robert Morris. Bobby Moe has been really hot. So you feel bad for teams like Cornell, for Denver, for High Point. They had great seasons, and you hear a lot of arguments for maybe expanding the field, maybe putting one more team in so you can have another play-in game. But right now, I don't think you need to do that. I think, how can you cry if you didn't handle your business during the regular season is the problem here. There's not a single team that got into this tournament that didn't deserve to get into this tournament. Every single team in, you can make the argument that, all right, these quality wins got them in. The strength of their schedule got them in. I mean, when you really look at the body of work, I think the committee got it totally right. I think they screwed the pooch on 1 or 2 seedings. Really, that Richmond playing Duke, I think that's the only one where we totally got something, screwed up. But maybe their logic worked out in the end. So it'll be great to watch. Everyone tune in. Make sure that we watch that first game, UMBC against Marist. I believe that's on Wednesday on ESPNU. Thank you guys for watching again. We will do another show probably Thursday leading into the tournament, maybe even Friday leading into the tournament, and then we'll do a show on Sunday after the first round games are over that will come out Monday morning. So really, the big shows are going to be Monday mornings throughout here, outside of obviously Memorial Day weekend. We're not going to do a show on Monday morning. We'll probably do that show either Monday evening or Tuesday, whatever. As always, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you want to get some swag, head on over to LaxFactor.com and you can get yourself some shorts, t-shirts, whatever. As always, comment down below, make it thoughtful, and you'll be entered in to win. We'll do the drawing here actually probably tomorrow. No, we'll do the drawing Wednesday. But comment down below to get entered to win this jersey. It is a a medium, by the way. So even if you're a big guy and you win it and put it on a wall, or you get something free, give it to a kid, whatever, who cares? And I didn't mention it earlier, but head on over to laxfactor.com/lamp and take a look at our big league lacrosse lamps and turn your old helmet into a lamp. Again, as always, thank you for watching, and Host is out.